The Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Then Jesus came from Galilee to the Jordan to John to be baptized by him. John would have prevented him, saying, "I need to be baptized by you, and do you come to me?" But Jesus answered him, "Let it be now, for thus it is fitting for us to fulfill all righteousness." Then he consented. And when Jesus was baptized, immediately he went up from the water, and behold, the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and coming to rest on him. And behold, a voice from heaven said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." Here ends the reading.
Praise to you, O Christ.
This is the season of Epiphany. This is that church season that falls right after Christmas and continues on. This moment here of seeing Jesus' appearance. It's a respite in the midst of the narrative between his appearing on Christmas and his fulfillment of his mission through Lent and Easter. It is a time when we look at the ministry of Christ. And the thing that I find so interesting is that this is the time of appearing. That is what Epiphany means. The appearance, the revealing. And here we are in this season. Now, for many of us, the church year can seem like some sort of artificial addition, something that we've outgrown. But the church year is meant to get us back into rhythms. And perhaps the biggest thing missing for us in the contemporary world is rhythms. We have constant go, 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 moving forward, being carried forward. It's hard for us to understand the rhythms. This time of the year when it seems so dark, we need to hear preaching of light. And maybe we haven't outgrown it. We still feel like we are wandering in darkness. And maybe it's not limited to just a season, but maybe it goes deeper and longer. And that's what this is about. And so, over the next few weeks, I want to remind you of that. We become obsessed with what we need to do. And it's so easy to forget the first and most important thing that we must do, which is look to Christ. He is not hidden. He is revealed to us. He is our light. But it's so hard when the world seems to crowd around us with darkness. And in doing that, I'm reminded of something. This past, just a few weeks ago, I went to visit family. And when we were there, we went to Dayton. I'm looking at my daughter right now, who's looking at me. We went to the Air Force Museum there in Dayton. And she loved climbing up in the cargo planes. And she liked looking around at all the various planes that were hanging up from the ceiling and lying around on the ground. What was interesting was there was a special area there that was filled with the rockets that were launched. The rockets that sent people to the moon or sent up satellites. And I was reminded as I was reading this of someone who is often overlooked. Someone who was very well acquainted with darkness. Many of us remember the first two people to set foot on the moon, but most of us can forget the other person who had to stay behind in the capsule. Michael Collins knew what it was like to be alone in the dark. During the Apollo mission, While Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong were on the moon, Collins was in charge of manning the spacecraft. He had to remain there, and people did worry about him. One of the most difficult things for Collins was a 47-minute period. 47 minutes going around the dark side of the moon. The dark side of the moon is a place that is cut off from the light of everything he's known. 47 minutes where there is no transmission, where he can't hear people, where he can't see the only thing every human being has ever seen. Apollo 11's own mission control said this of him: "Not since Adam has any human known such solitude as Michael Collins is experiencing this 47 minutes of each lunar revolution." Now, obviously, as a pastor, I couldn't let that quote pass me by. Not since Adam has someone felt so cut off. The Genesis story, when the strangeness sets in and everything seems dark and silent. But after those 47 minutes, all of a sudden the light reflected off the earth, and once again what he had known, everything he knew, appeared on the horizon. Perhaps small, but it was still there. Hope, the sight and the sound of what it means to truly be human. All of us feel this way at some point, don't we? All of us can feel as if we are on the dark side of the moon. And of course, it certainly isn't literal for us, but we felt it in different ways. The isolation of grief, the long waiting through illness, the solitude that accompanies doubt. Maybe we only truly acknowledge it when the light finally breaks through, when we feel permission to finally acknowledge it. And I suspect that is exactly how the people gathered around the River Jordan felt that day, right before the heavens were ripped open, before the light shone down and a voice laid claim to the one being baptized. This season of Epiphany, this season of the light appearing to us, carries the notion that this light has indeed come into our world, into the darkness which we have tried so desperately to pretend is not there. And as we continue through this season, we'll look at how God's light moves into our lives and brings forth newness. But for today, let's focus on this gospel lesson in which we see the light breaking in and the approach of the Messiah. We see how all the little lights seem to shine with reflected glory to point back to the light that has come into the world. We see heaven open, the joy of joy, the hope of hopes come down and pour forth a promise in light on the chosen one. And so with this movement of the appearance of the Messiah, the pointing of the little lights, and the heavens breaking open with light, let us go and read what it is that God has for us to hear today. Ultimately, the Gospels are trying to ask us a question. One of the most interesting things about questions is whenever you and I are asked a question, our knee-jerk response is to give an answer to a question we would like to have answered. It's difficult for us to really sit with the questions which we are asked. And the question here is, what will your life look like if you really believe that the dawn has broken? What will your life look like if you believe that God Himself has truly appeared? Many of us are uncomfortable with this question because we've gotten used to, and in fact, we've made a peace, an uneasy truce with this world and the darkness that we seem to inhabit at all times. And so we shrug our shoulders as we stumble around in the dark. Matthew has started his gospel, as you'll remember, with various talking points about the way the light is breaking in, as well as how people react to this inbreaking of the light, of the dawn emerging. It seems that the people can't shake the fact that they are wandering in darkness no matter how hard they try, and so there's resistance. Resistance to the reality that God has truly become present in their lives. They need heaven's light to break in on them, but they seem to have somehow or other given up hope. And that's the temptation for you and I. The darkness presses in around us, and we are tempted to forego any hope because it means giving up ourselves. And so what do they do after they've given up hope? Hope that God will come to their rescue. Many of them are going out to a baptizer that they've heard about in the wilderness. Everyone knows that they are in that darkness. They are on the dark side of the moon, but they are trying anything at all to just see a little bit of light. They know they are unclean, so they're trying to wash the darkness that seems to cling to them. John helps, but he can only do so much. And so, off in the distance comes a stranger. Like the sunrise, Christ appears. It is a day of darkness, just like every other day of darkness, until one day it's not. I love the word that Matthew uses here for Jesus arriving. This is that he comes upon the scene. He shows up. It dawns. It has this mundane aspect to it, and yet the world is about to change. John wasn't prepared for that day. The people weren't expecting it. But what is amazing is that the most important day of their lives had finally dawned. It's only in retrospect that we understand this in our own lives. Like the rest of the gospel, people are trying to figure out what to do now. God doesn't wait for them to get prepared. He just appears. And everybody scrambles trying to figure out how they are going to answer the dawn. This is not an old problem. This is a problem that you and I face today, not just the people outside the doors of the church who are afraid to trust that a new day has dawned. But those of us inside the church wrestle with this same question as well. I can't tell you how many books and papers I have read that seem to ask the question, what do we do now? What do you do now after you believe? Don't worry. You're not alone if you wonder what to do now once you believe. Many people turn the question back in on ourselves. I have to earn my place. But we don't see that from the Gospels. That's not what we read in the Gospels. There is one person on the scene who seems to be a stand-in for you and I. A person who is trying to live his life faithfully, to care for the needs of the community, to call people back to a right relationship with God. That was Jesus' cousin, John. John is the greatest. Jesus has even said so. And yet you notice about John, even he struggles. He struggles with what to do next. If Jesus is the light, then Jesus is someone who has been waiting all his life for the dawn to break. He is meant to point to the light, and even he has trouble recognizing what to do when it finally shows up. Jesus said in Matthew 11:11 that no one was greater than John. He had one job to do. But John stumbles in the moments when he encounters Jesus. So don't be too hard on yourself. Don't worry if you don't get it right all the time. Don't worry if you don't know what to do when Jesus shows up in your life or your neighborhood. Your job isn't to be the light, but to reflect the light, to point it out when it arrives. The answer that Jesus gives are the two things that you and I should bear in mind. First off, Jesus' appearance should give you peace in knowing your calling as a Christian. And it should give you the courage that your job is not to be the light, but to point to the light. If John had such an important role before the resurrection, how much more wonderful is your role now that you have seen the dawn break on Easter morning? John believes, and yet while he believes, he still doubts at the same time. He doesn't quite know what to do, and yet he still faithfully listens to Christ. We're told at the end of the gospel that the disciples do the same thing. They come to Jesus as he's ascending to heaven. It says they came and they doubted. They worshiped him while they still doubted. That is the posture of the disciple. That when the dark of doubt crowds around us, the light of Christ is still there. And yet God does not leave his people alone in our doubt. Jesus is baptized into our mortality. And in that baptism, the mission and ministry of Christ truly begins. Immediately, it says, as he emerges, the heavens are ripped open, and the Spirit of God descends over the waters. The glory of God shines down, and a voice from heaven speaks. Heaven was the place where the light of God, what was called the Shekinah glory, dwelt. Throughout all of Scripture, as we talked about last week, that light from heaven comes down, and when it does, it changes people simply by the reflection on their faces. Now it has shone down upon Christ. The paths of darkness have been abolished. There's no need for that anymore. The curtain of darkness has been ripped apart as the light from before creation descends upon the sun. Can you see this today? Or are you waiting for another light to show up? Can you see how the light falls upon Christ? All of us are waiting for a message from God, and yet here is the message. This is my beloved Son. Listen to him. Do you see the light falling on him? Do you hear the Father's promise that this is his heart? In the dark of the world, it is easy for us to try and lay aside the fact that the dawn is breaking. But can you see the sun? Can you see the way that that dawn breaks upon your own life? All of us have had moments like Michael Collins. Maybe it lasted 47 minutes, if you're lucky. Maybe it lasted a bit longer. Maybe you feel cut off from the world or the people with whom you work and live. Maybe you feel the weight of the silence of the dark side of the moon. Just remember, to every dark time there is a promised dawn. The people gathered by the river didn't expect to see the light walk amongst them, to go down to the river to be baptized by John, and then watch heaven itself tear open to claim him as its own. But that didn't matter. In the light of that new dawn, they all had to make a choice to live in faith. It happened while they stood in the waters. It happened while they were confessing their sins. It happened while they were hoping for cleansing, not knowing they were about to witness heaven's answers to their deep, dark yearnings of prayer. So the question for us is, how do we live as people in the dawn of this new age? There are many books that turn the focus back on us, but the only thing we should be reading is here, listening to God's promise. Like John, we must look to Jesus. We must understand our role in his kingdom story. We must trust that the light of heaven really is in this place. We don't have to be alone anymore. We've heard the message from our mission control. The light is on the horizon, and it has come to us. Amen.